Thank you very much, Senator Holder. Mr. Wayne Willock, President of the Small Business Association, and other members of the Small Business Association's Board of Directors. Senator Holder, Chief Executive Officer of the Small Business Association, and other members of the staff of the SBA. Mr. Anthony Bradshaw, Officer in charge of the Caribbean Export Development Agency. Ms. Kay Seeley, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Members of the Small Business Association, strategic partners, specially invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all good morning to you. I want to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to address the State of the Sector Conference. And permit me please to emphasize the fact and confess that I feel a personal sense of obligation that I speak to you with a personal perspective, given the fact that this is the first opportunity I have as minister to address the sector in a public way, but also to share with you a philosophical perspective, as I say, which I hope we can use to bring some sort of an agreement on a roadmap forward for this very important sector. I want to also emphasize that I congratulate the SBA for the concept of a State of the Sector Conference. I see it as being an excellent opportunity for us to take stock of challenges and issues, and quite frankly, opportunities as well that may present themselves to the sector as we go forward. And I want to suggest that this perhaps is also another opportunity for you, and I will develop this point later, another opportunity for you to reflect a little bit on whether perhaps once a year is too long a period of time for this sector to come together, and maybe we should do this more often. And I'm going to tell you why now. Philosophically, I am committed to the view that this sector is perhaps as important and as vital to the Barbados economy as any other sector on this island. And I say that and I emphasize it again. It is as vital and as important as any other. There's a tendency in this country, ladies and gentlemen, for us to look down our noses at micro and small businesses. And I think it is often born out of an abundance of misunderstanding as to the value that this sector provides. It is perhaps therefore useful for me to begin by elaborating a little bit on the importance of the sector and hopefully enlightening the darkness of those who dwell in a very conservative school of thought and don't fully grasp the importance of that which is right before us and what we have at our fingertips. There was a national survey that would have been done by the small business sector conducted in 2016, as I understand it. And it was entitled The State of Small Business in Barbados. That survey estimated that the small businesses in Barbados would have been constituted about 92% of 10,000 firms existing in the island at that time. Medium-sized businesses, according to that survey, constituted 4% of the 10,000 firms that existed in the island at that time. And large firms, defined as those having 50 or more employees, constituted 3.6% of the total. Now, immediately that tells me that in terms of the sheer weight of numbers, there is tremendous substance in terms of the commercial impact that this sector represents to the economy of Barbados. But what about that ever elusive issue of export earnings and export potential? The same survey points out that non-agricultural, micro, small, and medium enterprises constituted 40% of Barbados's total exports. And once you come to understand that, you understand, therefore, that there's no gainsaying the importance of the sector. Let no one undervalue its importance. or its achievements, because the achievements statistically speak for themselves. And therefore, it is against that particular backdrop that I say that there is an indisputable importance of the sector, and it is desirable and necessary to have a state of the sector assessment taking place perhaps at least once every 6 months, so that we can set clear goals, objectives, and take stock of the progress we are making in a very focused and direct manner. I need not say to Mr. Wayne Willock that there was a legendary gentleman by the name of Punka who had a donkey, and that donkey could find itself all over the place. The sector must not be in that state. It must be focused in the way it performs and proceeds. Now I want to turn to the issue of engaging you on the era of digital disruption and thinking beyond the box. Again, if there's one thing that COVID-19 has taught me, and I think it has taught all of us in Barbados, it is that a tiny microscopic virus could bring a national economy completely to its knees. It is a humbling reality, but equally within the context of that reality, it makes it clear to us that there's absolutely no room for pretentiousness about the extent of our vulnerability as a people and as an economy. That vulnerability, I want to suggest, is very real, and it is to be confronted, and it has to be corrected. As a government, we had determined a while ago, even before COVID, that we wanted to deconstruct and reconstruct, and you would have heard the Prime Minister speak to this several times, ancient and archaic systems in terms of government and administration in Barbados. As minister, I asked myself a number of questions. First of all, what is the public mischief that we want to correct? What is the public purpose or the public interest that we need to protect? And thirdly, can that interest or that mischief be either corrected or protected by way of the use of digitization or digital disruption of existing systems? And obviously, because we want to have a society in which we take everyone along with us on a journey towards development, we have to also ask the question of whether there are any people with vulnerabilities or special interests that may need to be protected as we look at deconstructing and reconstruction. Business facilitation for me is a key part of the way forward. And I begin there simply to say to you that as it is going to be a clear example of the performance of the government as we go forward, because it is an area in which public interest must be protected. And I'm pleased to announce that we will advance this public interest via a series of pieces of legislation which will be specifically aimed at ensuring better facilitation of business. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, the first one to be rolled out will be the Liquor Licenses Act. And there was a mischief in that act. That act really is very outdated. It is tedious, it was cumbersome, and it effectively would have seen players in the micro aspect of Barbados' economy, small business aspect of Barbados' economy, being forced to leave their business and go down to a magistrate's court in order to secure a license and stand for a day in the sun waiting on the matter to be called. And if there's a problem, as we all know, the courts are perhaps the slowest part of the process, if any administrative process in Barbados. So therefore, the court does not meet on that day, and you come back on another day. And a process, therefore, takes 3 weeks, in some cases more, for you to get a single license. And I know of operators in Oistins, for example, who, when they first entered politics, were telling me that they had to go and stand and wait and to get an occasional liquor license for a business that was established already, functioning every Friday and Saturday night in Oistins. And every week you go through that process over and over again. There are those who want to do that type of business by way of entertainment or food and beverage. They want to be part of the cultural industry sector, and they find themselves at crop over time as a festival season, but can't get a license that takes them through the duration of that season. They must replicate the process. It is a humbug. And therefore, what is now going to come is a very seamless process which allows you online to apply, online to pay via an easy payment platform, credit or debit card or mobile money. But the point is you pay, it is processed seamlessly online, and you get back your license within a 2 or 3 day period. And that is the way in which we want to go. The similar type of disruption must be used as a tool for us to deconstruct and reconstruct processes across the entire length and breadth of the business models and the Barbados economy together. And all of us know that this is necessary. Frankly, as minister, I relish the challenge because I also want to be candid. All of us know that we see these archaic business models and we encounter them daily. And quite frankly, we have all become numb to them. So that today's challenge really is not to understand the problem, but to sensitize the community as to the urgency of the hour in terms of changing the problems. And one example that immediately comes to mind is the plight of our brothers in the taxi fraternity in Barbados. We all know that they have been reeling under the crunch of COVID-19 as a result of the COVID-induced decline of travel and tourism. And we also know that their business model is perhaps one of the greatest impediments to the very urgent need for assistance that they have. And what is that business model? They, in 2020, operate a business model that existed in 1966 when I was born. And that is that you sit and congregate in a car park at a hotel or at the airport, and you hope for somebody to pass by and give you business, or in Bridgetown, sit and congregate. When we know that there is the existence of disruptive technology, and we must partner now with the private sector and facilitate the private sector. And again, this creates job opportunities in small and micro enterprises where people can develop applications born and bred here in Barbados, similar to those that we already know exist elsewhere in the world, and allow people to hail rides and allow us to have the rotating of taxi service across the town centers in Barbados, so that the couple thousand people working in Warrens or the couple thousand in Bridgetown who are getting into their personal vehicles to go from point A to point B at lunchtime every day need not be using personal vehicles, but can be sharing rides. And we keep the taxi people employed at a time when COVID is rendering almost every one of them in a situation where they face economic disaster. I want to say equally that the era of digital disruption demands that solutions to age-old concerns that have haunted us due to chronic neglect and laziness be brought to an end. And in that regard, I want to say that another concern I have is to move our enterprises onto an export-ready platform. Now, for me, one of the inescapable truths is that we have to confront the state of the Barbados National Standards Institute and to refocus it and to repurpose it. And I'm not saying this behind the back of the Institute, because I've had this discussion with its leadership, and I'm happy to announce that they are on board as well. It is important that we have all of the small and micro and medium enterprises in Barbados understanding that there is a great value to standards, and that there's a great value to accreditation and certification, and that there's also great value to testing, and that you should be able, by way of testing, to maintain certain standards of delivery of service and also the quality of products, of goods that we have. And if we can get that right, I am satisfied, and I genuinely believe that it will give Barbados the boost that we need by way of having a national quality policy, so that whatever the enterprise is, whether it is food and beverages, you're doing it in accordance with the standard. not just the large restaurants, which already described as, I can't even remember all of the terms they use to describe some of the restaurants, but we want it right across the system. We want it in public transportation. We want it in maritime transportation. We want it in fashion design and in salons and cosmetology. Whatever the area of interest is in the small and micro enterprise sector of Barbados, we must make sure that we have the standards, the accreditation, and that we build these things out in a way in which people can be certified, so that we have a national quality policy leading us to a national quality infrastructure. And it is on that infrastructure that the export potential of our firms will stand. I think it is important for us to make sure that, therefore, rigorous levels of acceptable quality are called for and are able to be met by both providers of services and goods in Barbados, and allowing us to make sure that our firms can meet customer expectations at home, while at the same time satisfy export standards in order to enter markets abroad. And key to all of this, quite frankly, is to make sure that the membership of the BNSI increases. Because we can't seriously speak the language of exporting and have a serious export economy if it is that there are 10,000 firms in the island, according to the SBA study, but less than 60 of them are members of the Barbados National Standards Institute. That, to me, does not make any sense, and I think it is food for thought for all of us. I want to submit that it is equally vital to utilize technology, especially that in a disruptive way, in order to mount a national campaign on product packaging and labeling. And why do I say that now? That bottle that I see right there next to me has a little QR code on it. And if I scan that QR code with my phone, right here, if I scan the QR code here with my phone, it is going to take me to the history of the operation. It will tell me the extent of, if there's nutritional facts, I will be told that. Product reviews by customers who use the product, I will be told that. Developmental backstory about how it was made, I'm going to be told that. I've even seen some where you have a video of people who are happy and satisfied customers. And the reality is that in this small little banner, that packaging tells a story that makes the consumer, who is very concerned about the way he's spending his money and what he's spending it on, a lot more powerful and satisfied that what he's spending on has value. But every producer of product in Barbados must now be placed on a platform. And this is perhaps where Dr. Sinanan and Caribbean Export can be of tremendous value to us in terms of partnership. But every producer must be placed on a platform where they can have that type of usage of a QR code, and our consumers as well, because we're the consumers. We too must understand the value of being able to look at a QR code and understand the history and the story behind that which we are purchasing. And if you feel that the minister is just running his mouth here, let me be candid with you. Apple, if you go home and research it, Apple spends as much time, Apple with the cell phones and the iPads, spend as much time on their packaging design as they spend on the design of the product that goes into the package. It is a reality. I want to say to you, because I'm mindful of the time allotted to me, that one of the things that I felt in tourism, and I feel now, and I think we can deliver it perhaps now more easily, is the need for us to have linkages with established market support structures that exist on this island. The Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, the Invest Barbados, these are entities with powerful websites, tremendous reach, potential in terms of access across borders, speed for people using them. And what we really need to do is to understand what they want and marry it to what our sector needs. They now want to be able to be more commercialized. They want to go into public-private partnerships. What does our sector need? our sector needs to be able to use something like a national website in order to make sure that everybody, not only here, but abroad, Barbadian communities abroad, West Indian communities abroad, friends of West Indian communities abroad, conscious consumers abroad, people who want fair trading, who live overseas and are concerned about the well-being of folks in the Caribbean. There are numerous categories, but we want to be able to reach them with every product, and every product could find itself located on a virtual economy space. It is true of every service and of every good produced in this country, that you can, by way of a pay-to-play system, find yourself on some of the major websites that exist already in this country. You don't have to build your own. And you live and cooperate together in a virtual economy space where all that you do, all that we produce, all that we sell is placed at the fingertips, not only of our people, but of our visitors and the wider world together. And it would completely transform the way in which we do business here in this country. And I suspect equally in the region. I want to say to you in closing that the bugbear for me, and I say it with great respect because I see the representatives of some of the financial institutions here, Trust Fund, the Fund Access, Enterprise Growth Fund. These are all well-known methods of assisting business development. But again, if we're invited to think out of the box, then let us do so. It is necessary to recognize that 95% or so of the loans being given in this country are backed by land, they're backed by buildings, they're backed by relatively new vehicles. But that doesn't help the entrepreneur in my constituency who wants to start a laundromat and may have some heavy equipment or want to expand his laundromat and has some heavy equipment, and the laundromat is located in a property that he doesn't own. The farmer in my constituency who has some crops and some livestock, but he's on land that he's leasing, he don't own it. What I'm trying to drive at is that there are numerous instances where we have players in the economic system who may be mechanic entrepreneurs. As I say, you may have a hardware store or a laundromat, you name it. But you have no land and no building. What you do have, however, is an account receivable. If you're a farmer, you have crops and livestock. If you are the hardware operator, you have inventory. The mechanic has his equipment. But all of those things right now have value. There is no institution in Barbados that is saying to you, I wish to lend you, I'm prepared to lend you against that value. Because we've been stuck in the same mode of doing the raising of capital and facilitating of loans in the same way for decades. So certainly from the time I knew myself, that's how it worked in this country. And yes, you may be able to point to one or two instances where there is a relationship of a personal nature in a small society between a banker and a particular individual, and he got a special arrangement put in place. But what we must now do is to make sure we have securitization of these loans by way of a collateral registry in this country, electronically making sure that there is securitization of assets. And the value in that is that you get up-to-date records guaranteed on a centralized database. The value of it is that it is easily accessed by all in the country. It is publicization of the security and prioritization of the physical asset. It allows people with movable assets for the first time ever in Barbados to be in a position where they can pledge that asset against a loan, and that asset be securitized so that the lender knows that there is some certainty against that which they're lending. But you can't have businesses which we all know have the potential to do better because they have a track record of existence. They have, as I say, a set of accounts receivables. So you can look at the business through its last year and realize that this person has $100,000 waiting to collect. But why then can he or she not be able to access a loan on the basis of the account receivable? It happens in Colombia. It happens in Sri Lanka. It happens in Nigeria. It happens in Ghana. It happens all around the world. We must be prepared to unleash the power of technology in order to make sure that we empower the businesses that we have with the vital financial assistance. It is like a shot of lignocaine into the heart in order to make sure that they are able to do the things they need to do in these most difficult of financial times. And I think that, ladies and gentlemen, that captures the philosophical approach that I want to bring to this sector. Now, the idea of a collateral registry is also something that is being worked on in my ministry. Mr. Cumberbatch and others are leading that charge. And I want to say to you that, in closing, the Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship wants to take fresh guard with this sector. We see that there is tremendous potential in the sector. We understand the pain and suffering in the country. And we hope that that immediate concern, that natural Barbadian concern about our fellow man, the pain and suffering in the country, must be the engine and the fuel that galvanizes us now to do the things to transform this economy in a way that we never did before, even though we all knew that it had to be done, but we contented ourselves to kick the can down the road. We did so because we thought there was a tourism industry that would always be there to save us. It has been brought to its knees, and there will be a time to pass before it can come back to what it was. But in the interim period, the fate of the future, our future, is in our hands collectively. Thank you.